Hello everyone, this is Nemerdan, and today we have a different kind of video. I'll be covering the Monotype Summer Seasonals, and this is by request from some people in our community, so I will be covering the seasonal during this off-season, and I will talk more at the end of the video about what my schedule will be going forward and some other updates, but just know for now, I will be covering this tournament to the end, and there will also be more to come. So with that being said, let's get into this tournament. So it is a double elimination tournament, and there are a bunch of games that I have to watch. So I'm not going to watch all of them, because obviously if I watched all of them, this video would be maybe 3 hours long. And all these games haven't even happened yet, due to the time limit. The deadline is on the 23rd, and people will wait till the deadline to play usually, so yeah. But yeah, I've selected a couple of the games that have been played already, so we're gonna go look at that, look at metagame stuff, and yeah, let's do that. So unfortunately, I was recording this previously, but my mic was off, so unfortunately didn't catch any of my audio, so I do unfortunately have to cover this game again. This game is going to be 75 turns long. It's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, as you can see, Flamigo is going to break through the Okie Dokie, and Landers is going to come in, taking a Brutal Surf from the Toxapex. U-Turn is going to go through, and Torius Therian is going to come into the Surf. So what's going to happen now is going to essentially be a stall fest. So yes, Torius gets Toxic, which is not good for Mighty Bofo. Mighty Bofo would much prefer a burn on Tornadus, because that way Tornadus can still stay in on a couple of things and still use its PP effectively. But yeah, and I talked about this in the last time I tried to talk about this, but Toxapex using Surf here is semi-unideal for Rindo Kame, but the flinches are even worse for Mighty Bofo, because that means Toxapex's PP isn't getting wasted, which is what he is trying to do with Corviknight right now. Muck is also going to be a big problem, because knockoff is a very annoying thing for Mighty Bofo's team to deal with, since he doesn't want to lose access to his rocks, and assuming Clodsire has rocks, I'm not sure if it does it or not. Even after watching the game, I still don't know if it has it or not, but yeah. The existence of rocks makes it very dangerous for him to get knocked off, because losing those heavy-duty boots can cost you the game. And yeah, Galarian Weezing will get rid of those rocks. And yeah, we're gonna keep seeing Tornadus being pivoted in. Here comes Landorus. Landorus goes for an Earthquake. The Earthquake does a ton of damage to Toxapex, but Rindo Kame does not want to risk losing their Landorus. Or did I say Rindo Kame? I'm sorry, Mighty Bofo does not want to lose their Landorus, so they're going to switch out. I forgot to make comments on the teams here, so I'll just do it now, since this is just going to be just constant pivoting. But yeah, Mighty Bofo's team is very interesting. We see the Landorus Therian, which I figured Landorus Therian is going to become a lot more popular on flying due to the lack of Gliscor. Now, it doesn't seem like this Landorus Therian set is defensive, though. It looks like it's more offense geared. And Flamigo is an inspired choice. Flamigo's niche is that it has Scrappy, and it being one of the few Scrappy mons in the tier means that it can actually be, 1, immune to Intimidate, which is actually much better than you think it would be, and 2, it can hit Ghost types, so stuff like Goldengo no longer becomes a real issue to break for Steel, for example. So it actually improves your Steel matchup significantly, because Steel's best way to deal with a fighting type is usually like a Skarmory or a Goldengo. But a Choice Band, Flamigo can just break through that very easily. So, and what it does to the other not so resistant Steel mons to fighting type is just gonna be brutal. So yeah, very nice mon to have for that matchup specifically. And it also is just generally pretty powerful with a Brave Bird and the like. So yeah, it is a very powerful mon in the right scenarios. Unfortunately, this is not one of those scenarios, as the Brave Birds are just not going to be enough. The Okidogi gets sacked, but Okidogi just did not look like it was going to be super impactful this game. So the Ice Beam does land onto the Dragonite, which would be a big deal, but fortunately it is Roost. So it's actually not that big of a deal. So even though the Dragonite used Roost, no, it is actually not the Fat set. I thought this the first time, but no, it actually isn't, and you'll see why later. But yeah, Corviknight is going to come in, and once again try to block Defog, and yeah, I'll comment on Rindo Kami's team now since we're going to be doing this again. But Rindo Kami's team is relatively standard with the exception of Okidogi, although Okidogi has just been on the fall off. I can't really say it's like too unusual to see it on type, but it's definitely fallen off a lot as the generation has gone on. Okidogi used to be like a relatively common mon on poison, but nowadays it's like not that great. And yeah, that's the only like real difference here. And the reason why Rindo Kami is probably bringing poison in the first place is because Gliscor was removed from the game because of the suspect test. So matchups like flying are going to be a lot easier because of that. And Poison is a type that's very good, as you can clearly see. It's very good at stalling out and wearing down other bulky teams. And the problem is that Flying used to just completely beat out Poison due to the existence of Gliscor. Poison would have to either have a strong water type attacker or utilize good switches that are being forced by Galarian Slowking and using Ice Beam, or just somehow wearing down Gliscor through Stealth Rock Chip and other means. We even saw stuff like Neutralizing Gas, Wheezing get used to mess up Gliscor's Poison Heal if it stayed in for too long, because it constantly keeps stacking, even if it is healing Gliscor. So if Gliscor stays in for like 5 or 6 turns, you can deal like 24 to 30% to it if you swap in Galarian Wheezing at the right time, and then the Gliscor can't stay in anymore because now it lost its source of recovery. So yeah, that's why Rindo Kami is now bringing Poison, and we're probably going to see a little bit of Poison in these matches as well, since people are going to be experimenting with seeing what Poison is capable of, seeing if it's actually good or not, because people were talking about how hard it was to use Poison because of the existence of Gliscor. Because we have seen Poison do pretty well in tournament before, when it doesn't match up into Gliscor, so the potential is there. But whether or not it's actually going to do anything is a different question entirely. But yeah, if you haven't been like physically watching what's been happening in the match, essentially what is happening is Mighty Buffa is trying to wear down Rindo Kami's team through PP stall with Corviknight to make it possible for his Dragonite to sweep. However, Rindo Kami is very effectively keeping Mighty Buffa on their toes, using Galarian Slowking effectively, and also just trying their best to either keep the rocks off the field to reduce chip damage, and just, yeah, generally just being a massive pain in the butt, I would say. But yeah, Corviknight is going to take a bit of damage here. The Roost is going to be used, and Flamethrower will go through again. And the burn is actually one of the few reasons why I think this game ends the way it does. So we're going to see Galarian Weezing come out again, looking to defog those rocks away. It does swap out at the presence of Tornadus, because Tornadus is still somewhat powerful, even though it is not building special attack. Bleak Wind Storm is going to do quite a bit of damage to the Toxapex, as we're going to see a U-turn happen once again. As the Dragonite now comes in, Multiscale will be broken by the Surf, as we see Dragon Dance get used. Mighty Buffa looking poised to sweep Rindo Kami's team, but the Clodsire comes out, Thunder Punch is used, and that will be it for the match, because Mighty Buffa sees no point in continuing. Yeah, once his Dragonite got poisoned, it was just game over. at that point. Because even though he does have a 2% Landorus, Rindo Kami is not going to let his Weezing just get killed for no reason, knowing that there's a Landorus on the team. Because if Galarian Weezing isn't there, Landorus just completely rolls this entire team, because nothing is faster than it, and its Earthquake is just going to obliterate the entire type, without question. But with the presence of Galarian Weezing, it's basically impossible for either Landorus or Dragonite to do anything, since Dragonite can't use Outrage, and it can't use Earthquake because of that Mon. Like I said, this Mon is incredibly annoying to deal with if you don't have the right types for it, and this is just a game showcasing that exact thing, because Mighty Boffa has 2 Mons that could potentially completely destroy the type, but they can't do it because Galarian Weezing is just way too solid of a defensive Mon and just perfectly stops Pokemon like those two. So, yeah. Well played to Mighty Boffa. Or, not Mighty Boffa. Well played to Rindo Kame. Mighty Boffa played as well as they could have in this situation as well. It's very frustrating playing against Poison as any type, but they tried their best to be patient, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough. So yeah, let's move on to the next game. Next game will be a Dark versus Fighting matchup. Now, usually this is advantageous as Dark, but I have said before in the past on this channel that sometimes this matchup is not favorable. So, yeah, you have to be very careful with Greninja specifically, and also the fact that you're going to get hazards stacked on you pretty well. Now, Rindo Kame's team is actually a bit unusual because it uses Alolan Muck over pretty much anything else, which is very unusual because Dark typically does not carry Alolan Muck. Typically, it will use Mandibuzz as their defensive Pokemon of choice, but it appears Rindo Kame thinks otherwise, so very interested to see what the Muck is going to bring to the table here, especially since this means that Rindo Kame may potentially have no hazard removal. I don't remember if Hydreigon actually keeps or doesn't keep Defog. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but we'll see. And Mighty Boffa is opting for a relatively new-ish fighting team. We're going to see the Quackleval actually come out. Quackleval actually not too bad into this team either, as it can very easily snowball, especially if it gets going off of Ting-Lu or just gets a Aqua Step off on the on the Muck. So yeah, and also the team just seems well equipped to deal with Dark, as they also have Scrafty, who is 4 times resistant to the stab, and also just very good at just taking those neutral hits and can kind of just bulk through a lot of the team. The only issue is that Scrafty has to be careful of the Sacred Sword from Sui and Samurott, and also just taking a strong raw hit in general. And if the Meowscarada has Play Rough, that's also game over for it. But yeah, either side could win this matchup, because Meowscarada is just a very powerful Mon, and if it does have Play Rough, this matchup can be very hard for Mighty Boffa to win. So let's see how this goes. Great Tusk is going to start, and we're going to see, yep, the instant Play Rough coming out. Rocky Helmet going to do a bit of chip damage, but yeah, Meowscarada is Play Rough, so that is not good for Mighty Boffa at all, because he has absolutely 0 switch-ins for that. Sneasler is going to be in Balloon, but Meowscarada is faster and still KOs it with Play Rough. Yeah, that is not something Mighty Boffa wanted, as now we're going to see the Heavy Slam come into the Iron Hands. And at this point, Mighty Boffa is just scratching for scraps. The Quackleval is going to come out, but the Earthquake is going to do too much damage, as Iron Valiant is going to come out to try and salvage the situation of critical hits, going to basically one-hit KO the Ting-Lu, as now we're going to see the Meowscarada come back out again. Seemingly, it may be Choice Scarf, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Choice Band, because I don't think Choice Scarf should be able to one-hit KO Sneasler like that, but maybe it can. I'm not sure. But Razor Shell is going to be used, getting the crit on Iron Hands with its enhanced crit chance. Drain Punch is going to be used, though. The Play Rough is going to be used, and because Iron Hands was low, it was going to be enough to KO, because normally it wouldn't die at full HP. And yeah, Scrafty is unfortunately not going to do anything, and that will be that. Rindo Kame will get a very quick sweep with the powerful Play Rough Meowscarada. And yep, it's just as I said, if he has play rough, the matchup is very hard, and it indeed was very hard for Mighty Buffet to get going there. So yeah, very unfortunate, but it is what it is. Well played to Rindo Kami, and they will move on to the next round. So let's move on to the next match, which will be Memphis Devay versus Do Amphibian. Do Amphibian is going to opt for a Steel team, and Memphis is going to opt for a Dragon team. Sorry, they looked a little bit too similar there for a second, but yeah. Memphis Devay is going to use the tried and trusted double steel core with Dragapult. His unique 3 though will be Latias, Raging Bolt, and Hydreigon. Again, we're going to be seeing a lot of Hydreigon lately, which is a bit unusual, but we'll see where this takes us. And Do Amphibian is opting for a steel team with Scizor, so basically a repeat of what we saw in NPL. This likely may even be an NPL team, so let's just see how this goes. Because we didn't see a lot of Raging Bolts in NPL actually, so let's see how it matches up into this team and see how equipped Steel is to deal with that mon. Alright, Raging Bolt coming out immediately. Draco Meteor going to do significant damage to the Skarmory, but Skarmory is just going to brazenly stand in the face of that and get that Stealth Rock off. Here comes Archaludon to dissuade the Iron Treads, as now Archaludon gets the Stealth Rock off on it. Raging Bolt now confirmed to be Heavy Duty Boots, so it will not get worn down by Stealth Rock very well. The Paralysis and very strong hits from the Thunderbolt going to do a lot of damage to the Heatran, but Heatran fortunately will live a 1% from the subsequent Draco Meteor, allowing it to get a crucial Earth Power that lowers Raging Bolt's health significantly. Now Iron Treads is able to freely switch in and get a stealth Rapid Spin off, but it does not look like Do Amphibian is interested in a Rapid Spin, and instead it goes for an aggressive Earthquake to lower the Archaludon's HP. Memphis, seeing this, is going to swap back into his Hydreigon, but unfortunately for him, it is Choice Scarf Archaludon. Very brutal, and he will lose his Hydreigon for that. Hydreigon was going to be one of the important bonds for this, because Hydreigon matches up very well into Steel, but unfortunately, with it gone, this may be a bit harder for Memphis to take the win. Raging Bolt is going to come in now. He's going to use Draco Meteor yet again, not trying to let, sorry, I'm trying to think of the name right now, but Iron Treads. They're not trying to let Iron Treads come in for free, essentially. But I feel like he can afford to do that because due to the fact that he has like good switch-ins for it, but I could be missing something here. But yeah, we're going to see the Goodra very easily tank the Hex, the boosted Hex from the Goldenga. Goldenga going to use Recover, and Dragapult is going to swap back into Raging Bolt, who will be KO'd by the Hex. This is now going to be hard for... Yeah, I was going to say, it's going to be really hard for Memphis to win this now, and Memphis seems to also agree as he proceeded to FF. Yeah, very unfortunate game from Memphis' side. He did not expect the Archaludon to be Choice Scarf. Although I feel like if this was the NPL team, I'm pretty sure the Archaludon was Choice Scarf on the NPL team as well. So, yeah. It's just unfortunate that I don't think he was expecting it to be Choice Scarf, and that cost him his Hydreigon, and once he lost the Hydreigon, it was going to be an uphill battle, and he constantly respected the Iron Treads, because giving Iron Treads a free turn as a Dragon team is definitely unideal, especially after you just lost your Hydreigon. So, yeah, he didn't want to play those 50-50s. It's just way too much guessing that you have to do. And as you clearly saw, Do Amphibian was willing to make aggressive plays with the Iron Treads, and he isn't exactly pressured to get rid of the rocks due to the fact that most of his team, or actually a decent portion of his team, doesn't really care too much about it. And Scizor and Skarmory can like afford to take a couple of Stealth Rock rounds, and he lost his Heatran already anyway, so yeah, it is just very sad. And once again, Memphis Devay got a few unlucky rolls, I would say, especially on the Heatran. He could have had a way healthier Raging Bolt, but sadly, that is just not what happened. So, without further ado, let's move on to their next match, which will be a steel versus fighting matchup. This time, Memphis is going to be using the fighting team. Now, I would say this matchup is slightly fighting favored, but I will say that Caesar is a very scary mon late game for the type to deal with. Especially if everything is very low HP, which with Steel, it can be possible to get them at that point, and Goldingo is a very frustrating mon for the type to deal with. Thankfully, he does have Gallade, so that can help a little bit, but Gallade can only do so much for a reasonable amount of time. But yeah, it seems like the Amphibian may have just brought the exact same team, so let's see how this goes. As Iron Valiant is going to come out immediately, Iron Hand's going to swap in, Thunderwave is going to be used, but yeah, it is not the exact same team, as you can see. It's just the same bonds, but not the exact same team. As the Archaludon actually does have the Stealth Rock. Scarlet is going to come in now. Sacred Sword is going to be used by the Gallade. Gallade is going to take some damage from the Rocky Helmet. Excuse me, as the knockoff removes the Rocky Helmet from Skarmory. Sacred Sword is going to be used again, and looks like the Amphibian is going to be insistent on keeping the Skarmory healthy, as it's one of its main tools at sponging those powerful fighting type attacks. Now the spikes are going to go up. Sacred Sword is going to still be continuously used. It looks like Memphis is trying to put as much pressure on the Skarmory as possible. Maybe even trying to force in the Goldingo, and Doom Amphibian is burning through those roost uses very quickly. And Memphis is very, very adamant on making sure this Skarmory either has no roost uses or is forced to swap out, and yeah, there's the swap. Knockoff is used, and quickly— ooh, a Choice Scarf Caesar. Very interesting. As we see the Sacred Sword unfortunately hit nothing. Caesar is going to come in again, and the Bullet Punch will finish off the Gallade. Gallade got a lot done there, but unfortunately it did not deal with the main thing that you need to deal with, which was the Goldingo, so we're going to see the fallout of that soon, as Goldingo is going to swap in to the Great Tusk. Great Tusk not going to be able to do anything, so Iron Hands is going to swap in and very easily take the Mega Rain. Mega Rain is going to drop Goldingo's special attack a little bit, and we have a free turn for Iron Hands here. But Memphis will instead pivot into Sneasler. And we see the double into Great Tusk, possibly predicting, yep, and Thunder Wave. As we're probably going to see— oh, no, Doom Amphibian does not go into Goldingo here, and instead opts to stay in and get the KO on the Great Tusk. Great Tusk will clear the rocks, but at the cost of its life, as Iron Valiant is not going to come in. Trick is going to be used, but unfortunately, Good as Gold makes that impossible. And it looks like Memphis is trying to stay doing the trick, but Amphibian is not falling for it, as we're going to see the Sneasler come in. Here comes Archaludon. Sword Stance is going to be used now, and that will guarantee a KO on the Archaludon at the very least. So there goes that. Skarmory is now down, and now Doom Amphibian is in a precarious situation. Oh, never mind. He also has Choice Scarf Goldingo, so he's actually just fine. But yes, the Urshifu is going to be Sword Stance, so this is still very scary for Doom Amphibian. As now, I don't think Urshifu can get one-hit KO'd by the Goldingo, but I could be wrong. Yeah, no, it does not get one-hit KO'd. I think maybe if it was Thunderbolt, it could have one-hit KO'd, but not 100% sure on that one. Iron Treads is going to come in. I don't think Aqua Jet kills here. Yeah, Aqua Jet does not get a KO, as Iron Treads is going to finish off the Urshifu. And unfortunately, Memphis does lose the matchup. Very unfortunate, but the Amphibian did just play it very well, and he was in Memphis' head by bringing the same team. This is a very common thing that I see a lot of Tour players do. They will bring the exact same mons in the exact same order and make you think that it's the exact same team, but the sets will be different. And this is something I've seen them do a lot, so you may see this a couple of times in this tournament as well, because it's a very popular strategy to kind of throw people off guard. But yeah, very nice match, and congrats to Duo Theme. So let's move on to our next couple of matchups, which is going to be Schwipper versus Prince of All Saiyans. Schwipper will be using a... Sorry, I need to read this thing's name again. Roaring Moon Dragon Team. Sorry. And Prince of All Saiyans will be using a Excadrill Steel Team. So... Oh, an Excadrill and Hisuian Gudra Steel Team. So this we've seen this archetype before on MWP, I believe. Back when Hisuian Gudra was like very popular on the Steel type, but I think we only saw it like once or twice. So I'm very interested to see how Excadrill fares into this. Excadrill looking very nice, especially into Raging Bolt. And if it has Bolt Breaker, it also means that Hydreigon cannot immune the Earthquakes, which will be very bad for Schwipper's defensive lineup. As a good position for Excadrill at any point in the game could lead to Schwipper losing quite a few of his Pokemon, since those Choice Scarf Earthquakes are going to be hurting really bad. So let's see how Schwipper manages this. We see the Archaludon start into the Hydreigon. Schwipper immediately swaps out, reading the Gudra swap in. We get the knockoff immediately, getting rid of the Archaludon leftovers, so it will now permanently lose HP, as we are going to see the Stealth Rock go in from Prince of All Saiyans. Gudra is going to come in as a response to the Raging Bolt, as the Calm Mind will go off from Schwipper. Draco Meteor only going to do a measly 49%, as the Dragon Tail will do 40% of Raging Bolt's HP, and pop the balloon. Dragon Bolt is going to swap out into the Archaludon, as Prince of All Saiyans swaps in their Skarmory. Spikes is now going to be used, and as we've said before in this channel, hazards are Dragon's greatest weakness, despite how powerful the type is. So, Draco Meteor is going to be used again by Schwipper. Once again, Schwipper completely respecting the potential for Prince of All Saiyans to swap in. Raging Bolt going to take a lot of chip damage, and Skarmory is going to heal itself not quite to full. So Prince of All Saiyans will be swapping into Gudra as a response. Hisuian Gudra is very low, and I do not think it will be able to survive a subsequent Draco Meteor, so Schwipper will be able to get that off and break down that very tanky Mon. Dragon Bolt is going to come in now. Unfortunately, Prince of All Saiyans read the spin block attempt and got the knockoff off, and was able to defeat the Dragon Bolt on Schwipper's team. Flamethrower is going to be used by the Hydreigon, but yes, a subsequent Dark Pulse will get the KO, as the leftovers brings Hydreigon back to full HP. Iron Treads now coming in. Prince of All Saiyans will double out into the Gholdengo though, reading the Archaludon. Prince of All Saiyans now going to swap into Iron Treads, trying to, I guess, I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to read there, but definitely was expecting a swap of some sort. The Flamethrower will get the KO on the Iron Treads, sadly, as the Hydreigon will reveal its Flamethrower. Well, not reveal, but use its Flamethrower. And here I said, this is the dangerous spot that Schwipper did not want to be in. Excadrill with the Mold Breaker going to be getting a KO for free here, as Roaring Moon is now forced to take hits from Skarmory, who I believe still has the Rocky Helmet. Yeah, they still have the Rocky Helmet, so here comes Hydreigon. Hydreigon in a decent spot here, as Skarmory is forced to take a KO. Not sure. And Excadrill will come in. Once again, Hydreigon in a very scary spot, since it has leftovers and no boots. Gudra will fall. Gooey is not going to proc due to it not being a contact move. Roaring Moon is going to come in as well. Roaring Moon is thankfully Choice Scarf, but Excadrill will still get the KO. And Hydreigon is now going to come in. Hydreigon will be faster now that the Choice Scarf is gone. So will we be able to see the Gholdengo potentially get the KO? No, it will not, and just like that, Schwipper wins a very close match. This is actually a very good match, showcasing modern metagame trends. The Excadrill was very scary, as I predicted, but fortunately Schwipper's usage of Hydreigon was very well done, and he was able to wear down Principal Saiyan's team before the Excadrill could become too big of an issue to deal with. So, honestly, well played from both sides, though. This is just a very well played game. But Schwipper will come out on top. Let's move on to the next match. As we're going to see a Dark versus Ground matchup. Looks to be a relatively standard ground team as well. And Schwipper is going to be opting for a Hydreigon Dark team again. This time opting for a Alolan Muck as well. Another Alolan Muck team, very interesting. But yeah. Not much to really say about this team. I just think it's very interesting that we're seeing a lot of Alolan Muck lately. But I think we've only seen it twice so far, so maybe don't say that it's too much. But yeah. And yeah, Ash Ripper is saying Hydreigon is also another person that really likes the ban of Gliscor, since Gliscor can kind of just sit on it a lot of the time, even with the stall breaking sets, so... But back to the game, Tinglu does get the rocks off as Landorus comes in, taking a Ruination. The Focus Blast and subsequent Earth Power will be enough to take down the Tinglu, though, as now Principal Saiyans is going to be forced into the Clodsire. Clodsire not going to be able to take those hits, as Excadrill is going to come in now. Excadrill will get KO'd by the Flower Trick as the sand is gone. Great Tusk is going to come in, and Schwipper is going to respect the Great Tusk, because that thing can live a Choice Band Flower Trick, which I assume is what the Yaskara is. Greninja is going to come in to threaten the ground team as Ice Beam is used. Clodsire going to take the fall, as Powdon is now going to come in. Powdon is going to take a hefty amount from that Ice Beam, but not quite suffered too much, as the Mon will perish. Mamswine's going to come in, and Mamswine should be able to tank an Ice Beam, and that's Schwipper knowing this. Swaps out into the Hydreigon. Hydreigon is going to opt for a Dark Pulse, but Mamswine is going to Icicle Crash and instantly KO it. Here comes the Hisuian Samurott, though, looking very scary with that Sacred Sword. Razor Shell will be used instead, which is also a fair enough move to use. And we'll see the Great Tusk. A Chople Berry from Schwipper, actually going to allow Samurott to survive and get a subsequent KO on the Great Tusk. That was very bad for Principal Saiyans to experience, as the Sucker Punch will deny Mamswine the opportunity to revenge, and Schwipper will win the second match. So yeah. Once again, well played to Schwipper, played very, very solidly. Fortunately, this matchup is very good for him, especially since he has his Hisuian Samurott as like extra insurance against the ground team. But yeah, even with that said, Schwipper still played very well, and played a super solid game. Principal Saiyans played the best they could, but matchup is very hard for them to win. It was going to be an uphill battle. But yes, Schwipper will take the W, very well played. Next we'll have Azik versus Vapor. Oh, I forgot to be describing these players, but yes, Azik is I think Azik is currently an NPL champion, I'm not 100% sure, but Azik was definitely a finalist, I believe, in NPL, and if he wasn't a finalist, he was at least in NPL, so that's at least impressive enough. And they are a relatively decent player. Vapor, I believe, maybe newer. Not a super... I don't believe this person was in NPL, but I could be wrong. Maybe a separate alias or something like that, but yeah. Azik here is going to be having a bug team, and this seems to be like the standard bug team that gets run nowadays. They drop Fortress and just have a Slitherwing instead, and they just opt for like a bulky offense variant with a choice, or sorry, not choice, but a Sticky Web support with really strong attackers, mainly priority attackers, as you can see with Caesar and low kicks. And Slitherwing also opts for priority, so yeah. without further ado, let's take a look at the game, because... Oh, and Vapor is using a Rain team. No Bear skewed it, interestingly enough, but we did see that in MPL, so not entirely shocked. Alright, so Cleavor lead into Keldeo. Cleavor going to use U-turn immediately. Raquidid, very good at sponging hits from Keldeo, because Keldeo doesn't really have a lot of options to hit back with. So Sticky Web is going to go down for free. Vapor is going to take this opportunity to start Calm Minding, as Raquidid also can't really do a ton back to Keldeo, but that defense drop may do a lot of damage to the Keldeo, as you're going to see the Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword will finally do 54%, but again, with the defense drop, it is going to be very brutal for Keldeo to do much more. Lokic's going to come in, and first impression is going to be faster than Vacuum Wave, which is what Vapor may have been thinking of doing, but unfortunately they cannot afford to do that, as the Keldeo will come back in. Keldeo is going to be slower than the Volcarona though, after the webs, so they will be KO'd. Here comes Kingdra though, and Kingdra kinda is allowed to do whatever it wants here. So yeah, Volcarona is going to perish. We're going to see Cleavor come in. Cleavor is going to be faster than the Kingdra in Rain due to the webs, as we see the U-turn get used. Here comes the Toxapex. Swords Dance is used by the Lokix, as we're going to see Leech Life take away half of Toxapex's HP. Toxapex is going to be forced out with the eject button, which is very standard on these Rain teams. Sucker Punch is going to be used, but that will not do much, as Lokix is going to Leech Life and get its HP back. Suing Samurott making no progress this game, as the Leech Life will be continued to be used on the Toxapex. We're seeing real power from Lokix right here, ladies and gentlemen, as we see the Pelipper come back in. Leech Life going to get the KO on that as well. Here comes Kingdra, looking to get a kill, as Slitherwing is going to be opted as the sacrifice this time around. I think that might be Assault Vest, but yeah, no, I think it might be Assault Vest, because I think that Kingdra is definitely Specs. So yeah, we see the U-turn again from the Cleavor, and now here comes Lokix. Lokix going to be able to get the KO with the first impression, as Toxapex is going to come in. Recovery will be used, and we're going to see Leech Life deal 62% of Toxapex's HP, as Haze is going to be used. Toxapex is going to be forced into this very brutal loop of having to recover. Oh, and the critical hit is going to make that much easier for Azek to deal with. Saves us a lot of time, frankly. As the Swords Dance will be used, the Leech Life will do neutral damage, so there's going to be no 2x boost here. As Toxapex will not be able to tank this follow-up hit, so just like that, Azek will take the victory against this Rainwater team. Very well played to Azek. And we see the power of Bug right here, ladies and gentlemen, as webs are just incredibly powerful. You saw the entire time, every single time that Vapor would use one of its grounded bonds. The Kingdra just not as threatening as it could be, because of the fact that Cleavor could outspeed it with Choice Scarf and one layer of webs, because most Kingdras are, I believe, timid, which means it's the plus special attack nature and minus attack nature, so no additional speed, so it's not 295 like it normally would be, which means that Cleavor can outspeed it under webs after one round of, after, you know, one speed drop. And, yeah, even in rain, Kingdra will get outsped. So, yeah. Now, if Kingdra was, not that speed, it was very possible that it could have done a speed tie, but little known fact about Sticky Web actually makes it so that it rounds down. So even if they are seemingly the same speed stage, the one in Sticky Web is actually going to be slower by default, even if they have like the same speed stage. So yeah, Cleavor would have outsped anyway, even if it was the same speed. But yeah, without further ado, let's move on to the next match. As we see Azek bring the Bug team again, but Vapor should not take this too lightly, as they will be bringing a flying team with Landorus. Regular Landorus, not Therian. As well as Zapdos as well. Seems like Double Steel Bird seems to be the defensive core of choice these days, so let's just see how that goes. Alright, so we see the Skarmory lead as the Kleavor does its thing, setting those rocks up immediately as the spikes starts coming down from Skarmory. Vapour is going to boost the Skarmory to bring back full HP, as the Volcarona Will-O-Wisp will go through onto the Dragonite. Definitely not what Vapour wanted, especially if the Dragonite is not the fat set, and yeah, it is not. So Scizor is going to be able to get some progress here if it does have Sword Stance. I won't 100% say it has Sword Stance or not. Okay, it does not have a Choice Band, never mind. But yeah, the knockoff will get rid of the Rocky Helmet, and Close Combat will be used. Fortunately, not doing a ton, and the Iron Defense will start to be used by the Skarmory. Volcarona is going to come in as a response, since the Body Press will not do a ton of damage, although the crit did do a little more than it should have. But Vapour is going to swap into Tornadus. The Morning Sun from Ezek will return the Volcarona to full HP though, as we're going to see the Tornadus use knockoff and remove Slitterbone's Expert Belt. Liquid Storm going to get a free KO on the Slitherwing, as Kleavor is going to come in and be a massive problem again. Kleavor, I'm sure this isn't shocking, but Kleavor on Bug is actually one of Flying's biggest problems, since it kind of can just come in at any time and just be a massive problem. And Landorus is going to struggle to deal with the Lyraquidid due to its unique typing, so we're going to see a Liquidation come through. Corviknight's going to take that relatively well, but had that been a defense drop, that could have been really bad for it. So we should be Vapour should be grateful for that. But we are going to see Kleavor come back in, and once again, this is not a spot that Vapour wants to be in, as Dragonite will now be KO'd. Corviknight going to come in now, and Kleavor would be forced out since Corviknight is not going to drop that easily. The U-turn is going to be used, thankfully not getting a burn, but Tornadus is now into Volcarona. Araquanid is going to be the one to take the Liquid Storm, as knockoff is used. Heavy Duty Boots revealed on the Araquanid, but no value was achieved from them. As the Stone Axe will come out again. Once again, Kleavor just picking up those KOs constantly, one by one. Lokick's going to come in as a response to the Landorus this time, as we're going to see a First Impression go off. First Impression not quite going to make a lasting impression, as the Landorus will get the subsequent KO. But Kleavor is just going to come in again, this time using U-turn instead of Stone Axe, and allowing Scizor to come in and get some potential chip damage off on the Tornadus before Kleavor can come in and finish this sweep, as the Stone Axe is going to get the KO on Tornadus, and Corviknight should be as good as gone, although Ezek still opts to go into the Volcarona anyway, just in case Stone Axe miss. Flamethrower will do a decent chunk of damage to the Corviknight, but Vapour, seemingly admitting defeat, doesn't even attempt to go for the boost, and just accepts their fate. And just like that, Ezek wins with Bug both times. Now, you would think that Fly would have a decent matchup to Bug, especially since they can avoid webs, and you'd be almost right. The only issue is that Flying notoriously does not use their own stab. Tornadus Styrian is like probably one of the only mons that actually uses its own stab, and sometimes Zapdos as well. But yeah, most of the very common mons on Flying do not use their own stab. So despite having a quote-unquote typing advantage, it's actually not that much of an advantage. The biggest advantage they have is the fact that they can avoid webs. However, as you clearly saw, Kleavor kind of just brutalizes this type, especially after any amount of chip, which Bug can just do extremely easily. Because as you saw, Araquanid can just hit really hard, Scizor can just hit really hard, Lokix, because of Tinted Lens, can just hit really hard, and Volcarona is just always a problem, so yeah, no, this was just going to be very hard for Vapour to deal with. And as a seasoned player, was just able to take advantage of that. So yeah, well played to Essek. And now let's move on to our next match, which will be between Ziri and Failbore 21. Failbore is opting for a stall water team, as Ziri is going to opt for a ghost team. Now, this ghost team is probably going to brutalize this water team, because if there's one thing I know about ghost, it is one of the strongest types on offense, I would say. And I don't think a stall team can actually deal with it as well as you would think, especially a water stall team, since they're susceptible to a lot of the shenanigans that Ghost can do. Not to mention that Brambleghast also is just a massive problem for this type to deal with, but let's just see how the match goes first. As we see the Empoleon get led, Fluttermane gonna come in immediately and just spam a Thunderbolt. Easily lives a Flash Cannon from the Empoleon, as we see Ziri go straight into the Brambleghast. Failbore going into the Gastrodon, but knowing that that is a mistake, immediately swaps into the Toxapex, as Ziri will now respond with a Goldingo switch in. Gyarados going to come in on the side of Failbore, as we see the Nasty Plot go through. Dragon Tail, okay, so this is the Fat Gyarados set. I mean, I shouldn't be shocked, because this is obviously a stall team. But Saberledge is going to use the Poltergeist, as Scald is used by the Gyarados. I did not know and knew that, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised. And the Earthquake comes through. Getting a crit, I'm not 100% sure if that crit mattered. Depends on the EVs, but yeah. We're going to see Fluttermane just do Fluttermane things, spamming that Moonblast and doing a ton of damage. As Goldingo once again comes in, Nasty Plot will be used, as Toxapex is going to opt for the Haze, denying those Nasty Plots. Dondozo is going to come in now as well. And we're going to see a Shadow Ball get used. Shadow Ball not going to do a ton to Dondozo. But it looks like Ziri is trying to force a rest here. Ooh, no, the special defense drop actually doesn't matter. So, oh, never mind, it does. I forgot that Unaware is only relevant to the opponent's stats and not your own. So, if you get a Spit F drop, it's still bad for you. Gastrodon going to come in, forcing out the Goldingo, but Failbore is going to be forced out of it due to the Brambleghast presence, as Ziri takes advantage of that uncertainty and goes straight into the Goldingo. Goldingo now going to get frozen, unfortunately, by the Gastrodon. My bad, coming out from Failbore, as the Brambleghast is going to stay in and start causing some havoc. The minor strength set not going to do as much. Looks like Failbore was... Oh, no, it's Toxapex doesn't even know Scald anymore. I don't know why I'm saying that, but... looks like Ziri is trying to get the Defrost off on that Goldingo, because they do need that low-key, as the Rapid Spin will go off on the Brambleghast, getting rid of that singular spike. As Gyarados is going to come in again. It looks like... Oh, if Ziri had stayed in there, he actually could have gone Thaw, because Scald actually does Thaw frozen enemies as well, I believe. So, yeah, Goldingo is going to come in. Ziri is going to not stay in again. Yeah, he's probably predicting the Dragon Tail this time around, so Goldingo is going to swap out again. Gonna get Dragon Tailed again. This time Fluttermane comes out, and yeah, that's not a mon the Failbore wants to see, so gonna see a Shadow Ball get thrown out. Gastrodon gonna get worn down significantly, and that Spit F drop is not what you want to see, as Toxapex is going to come in and have to deal with the Shadow Ball. Due to it not having Black Sludge, it's going to get to a KO, so Failbore is going to swap out. Alomomola not quite able to tank those Shadow Balls, as we're going to see Gastrodon get another Spit F drop, which means that it will be forced out as well, and now Dondozo is forced to come in. Dondozo is still resting, but it does have Sleep Talk, so it may be able to get a Waterfall off here. It does not, so it is actually just going to perish, as Fluttermane gets another KO. Here comes Gyarados. Gyarados should be KO'd. Crit probably likely did not matter. And Gastrodon is going to come in again. This time getting crits. This poor Gastrodon is getting retribution for that one singular freeze on the Goldingo, as it also now falls to the Shadow Ball. And yeah, just like that, Failbore gets absolutely crushed by Ziri's Flutter Mane. But yeah, like I said, Ghost's offensive pressure is just way too much for Assault teams to deal with, and yeah, as you can see, Flutter Mane just kind of brutalized this stall team. Granted, it got somewhat lucky with those Spadef drops, but in all fairness, Ziri did get frozen onto Goldango, so that is very unfortunate for both sides, but I would definitely say Ziri probably got the better end of the luck, I would say. But yeah, Ghost very strong, and let's move on to the next match, which will be a Dragon Mirror. Both sides brought Como, interestingly enough. I did not think I was going to see a Como Dragon Mirror of all things, especially in seasonals this early, but yeah. We're going to see that. Both of them also having Latios. The only differing mons on these teams are going to be the Latios on the side of Failbore and the Roaring Moon on the side of Ziri. So let's see how this goes. As we're going to see the Archelodon lead from Failbore. Dragapult is going to immediately swap into the Goodra on Ziri's side as Thunderwave hits the Goodra. Thunderwave going to be unideal for the Goodra to have on it, but it is what it is, as Archelodon will set the rocks down. Aura Sphere is used by the Komoro as Latios easily tanks it. Trigger Meteor is going to be used, not getting a ton of damage onto the Hisuian Goodra, but it is what it is. Archelodon is going to come in as a response, and Ziri is going to easily predict that, going straight into their own Como. Clinging Scales, sadly not going to get the KO, and now Como is going to be paralyzed as a result. Flash Cannon going to be used. I'm pretty sure Flash Cannon... I may have to check that again. Okay, yeah, no, it is soundproof. I thought Flash Cannon was a ballistic move, and I was just like, I'm pretty sure if it was bulletproof, it would have stopped that. But yeah, no, it's actually, turns out that Ziri is soundproof. Very interesting, because I thought bulletproof would be the more common option, but it appears Ziri thinks differently. So, with that out of the way, both combos are now gone, and we see the Dragapult swap from the Goodra. Goodra is going to get Gooey Drop proc off on enemy Hisuian Goodra, as Dragapult is going to look for those Dragon Darts to get the KO on Goodra. Goodra actually able to tank those Dragon Darts very well, and a knockoff will ensue. Heavy Duty Boots is revealed on the Dragapult. We probably already knew that, but I just missed it barely. But yeah, subsequent Protect is going to try and allow it to get more HP. Ooh, the double Protect going off, fortunately for Failbore. Triple Protect going off for Failbore. That's actually a very relevant triple Protect, because now Hisuian Goodra actually has the opportunity to get the KO on Dragapult. Insane! Insane fortune on the side of Failbore here, as Latios is now going to come in as a response to the Archelodon. Healing Wish is now going to be used, and that's probably going to go on. Yeah, it's probably going to go on Hisuian Goodra later. So yeah, there it is. Trigger Meteor is going to be used, probably intentionally baiting it so that it doesn't go on his Latios, but the Latios will get Thunder Wave, so it's still unideal. As the Ice Beam will go off, but Ziri is going to still stand strong. Draco Meteor bringing Latios down to dangerous HP levels. Keldon now going to use Body Press and subsequently KO the Latios, not subsequently, but you know what I mean. Dragon Darts is going to not deal a ton of damage to Archelodon, and just to further increase its stamina boost. Leftover is going to bring back a lot of his HP, as now Archelodon just has the lowest Draco Meteor power imaginable. But full stacks of the stamina allow it to basically become almost impenetrable to the Dragon Darts from Dragapult. Basically taking half damage from the move, as Dragapult will now be KO'd. Draco only has one use of Draco Meteor left, but the Body Press will just be enough to get the KO. And just like that, Ziri will win against Failbore 21. Very well played game by Ziri. Also very nicely built team. Even though Roaring Moon didn't get to do anything, its presence was still enough to scare out some options from Failbore, so very well done. And yeah, that's what I would expect from an NPO tier player, so let's move on to the next match. It will be a match between Hammy and Luzin, both players in MPO and MWP, so very nice to see them squaring off in this seasonals match, where the stakes are a little bit lower. They're still high, but they're not as high as a scene tournament, so they're allowed to bring some fancier teams this time around. And as we see from Hammy, they are opting for a Alomomola team with Ogerpon Wellspring, and Lewison is opting for a Landorus Incarnate team, with Double Steel Birds. Yeah, this seems to be the common defensive core that I thought would be common on Flying now. So it seems that Double Steel Birds, Tornado Therian, and Dragonite seems to be the staples of the type at the moment. And your choice of Landorus is also there as well. Now, this is the second time we've seen a Fighting Flying type in this seasonal round, but I'm sure it's just because there aren't like a ton of better options. Because, strangely enough, Flying has like a weird situation where it has like a bunch of attackers that it wants to use, but like all of them, it basically just becomes preference, especially now. Because you could use Galarian Moltres, but you would need like a specific amount of setup for it, and some sets on certain defensive mods would need to be different. You could use Zapdos, regular Zapdos, not Galarian Zapdos. But then you would have like weak physical damage if you don't plan on using Dragonite very well. Yeah, it's just generally pretty weird, I would say. But this team archetype definitely seems like it's probably becoming the meta way to run Flying, but maybe there'll be more to see later on. But enough about that. Let's actually get into the match. As we see Tornadus lead into the Greninja, taking a hefty 77%, but now soon, Galarian Zapdos can now come in. U-turn will be used on Yellow Rolla, bringing back Tornadus. A knockoff, removing those heavy-duty boots, which will be key for the Skarmory and its future Spite. But yeah, Corviknight is going to come in. U-turn will be used, and the Stealth Rock will go through. Skarmory is going to match with their own Stealth Rock as the Roar from Swampert will come out. U-turn is going to be used from Tornadus on Lewis inside, as Skarmory is going to come in and block the knockoff, absorbing it and doing it Rocky Helmet Chip. Probably going to see a Spike come out from Skarmory here. Nope, instead we see a Iron Defense, as the flip turn will be used by Alomomola. Toxapex is now coming in, as Iron Defense is going to keep being used by Luzin. Alomomola coming in yet again, as Iron Defense is still being used by Luzin. Seems they fully intend on threatening a ID sweep. As Body Press is used, it does a decent amount of damage to Toxapex actually, I would say. As Toxapex is going to go for the Haze, and Luzin gets a perfect read because of the conditioning onto Hammy. And now Landorus gets a free swap in and gets to wreak some havoc on Hammy's team. That Earth Power crushing a good majority of the mons on the type. As yeah, we're going to see Swampert not be able to tank that very well, and that will be goodbye to Swampert. Here comes Ogerpon Wellspring though, who's in a very good spot, as it is free to Swords Dance, or just use Ivy Cudgel, which it does opt for doing. Ivy Cudgel will 2-hit KO the Skarmory. Tornadus is now going to come in and try to get a Blueprint Storm off, but nope, instead it actually goes for a U-turn, predicting the swap into the Alomomola. Alomomola is going to opt for a Protect here, as Ogerpon Wellspring will come back out. Will Luzin predict? No. Instead he gets a critical hit, meaning that the Wellspring cannot come back into the fight. As Dragonite is going to opt for an Extreme Speed, getting rid of Wellspring and also one of Hemi's best breakers. Corviknight is going to come in now, as we're going to see Toxapex double into the Hisuian Samurott, Sadly, Hisuian Samurai's value in this game will not be as great as it could be, due to the fact that flying is just passively immune to spikes. So we're going to see Galarian Zapdos get a KO onto the Hisuian Samurai, as Dragonite is going to come in and take some rocks damage due to the removal of its heavy duty boots. Toxic is going to be used by the Toxapex onto the Dragonite, as we see Dragon Claw get used instead of Outrage. Interesting. I guess Luzin thought that having control over Dragonite would be more important than the raw power of Outrage. Corviknight is going to keep roosting in front of the Alomomola, as we're going to see the Scarlet go through. U-turn is going to be used, and Tornado's Therian swaps right in. Wish is going to be used by the Alomomola as it opts to heal itself with its Wish and not a teammate. Hurricane. Oh, wait. Hurricane is being used, and its U-turn is utilized. Dragonite going to take a hefty amount and be brought right into toxic range, and sadly it be KO'd without doing much. Landorus now comes in, doubling straight into Corviknight, probably baiting in. Actually, no, it's not baiting in anything, as the Protect fails. Scald is going to be used, and a Burn is going to go off on the Corviknight. Constant chip damage, which would be very annoying for Luzin to deal with. Wish is going to be used again, as the U-turn from Corviknight is going to go through. There's the flip turn from Alomomola, and we're going to see a full heal on the Greninja. Tornadus is going to come in, but Tornadus will be forced out and go straight into Corviknight. Corviknight not going to be able to tank that as well as he could because of the removal of leftovers and that burn. That may be... Nope, that's not quite it, because Galarian Zapdos is thankfully Choice Scarf. Alright, Galarian Zapdos opting to stay in and keep doing damage, as now Luzin expects to go straight into Landorus. Freely getting a prediction on the Protect, as the nasty plot finally gets revealed. Unfortunately, Alomomola will call the bluff and immediately put in the Greninja. Greninja getting that KO with Ice Beam, as Galarian Zapdos now comes in again. But now with the removal of Landorus, it is going to be very difficult for Luzin to break through this team effectively. And yeah, Luzin acknowledges that, and the game is over. Hammy does win this match. Yeah, just very well played maneuvering from Hammy, utilizing Greninja very well and as aggressively as needed. Luzin tried to get a couple of very good reads, and he did get a couple of really good ones, but unfortunately not enough to manage the scary mon that is Ice Beam Greninja against his team. Pokemon Wellspring also just doing a hefty amount of work. Getting that KO on Skarmory was very huge, and basically denied Luzin a very powerful part of the strategy, which was just forcing switches and racking up that spikes damage. Although it looks like it might... Oh, yeah, it only had Stealth Rock and didn't even have spikes. So, yeah. This is actually something I thought people would avoid when doing modern flying teams. I thought they would avoid doing Stealth Rock, and they would just choose to always do it on Landorus instead, but it looks like people are still opting to do just Stealth Rock, which this is definitely viable. But I definitely thought people would do spikes more. Maybe I'm foolish for thinking that, but we'll just move on to the next match, which will be using a Steel team with Scizor. So we're just going to call this MPL Steel whenever we see it. And Hammy is going to opt for a Poison team. So yeah, this matchup is one we haven't seen a lot. And also, Hammy is using Amoonguss, which Amoonguss is actually not a bad mon on Poison, it's just not very common, is the issue. So, yeah. But yeah, it's a pretty decent ground neutrality, so I think you would see Amoonguss a lot on those teams with the neutralizing gas Galarian Weezing. So let's move on to the match itself. Scizor is going to lead into, as Muck goes for a knockoff immediately, removing Skarmory's leftovers, shockingly enough. Spikes is going to come down, as Goldengo is going to swap in, Toxapex revealing its heavy-duty boots, and Muck also revealing its heavy duty boots, as it will take a Thunder Wave and that will not be ideal as time goes on. Flamethrower is used by Hammy recklessly, and Heatran will easily gobble that up as the Lava Plume will be used on Toxapex, not doing a ton of damage. But a critical hit Earth Power is going to make a big issue for the Toxapex, as now it is forced out, and Heatran can freely use Lava Plume on the Clodsire, who now has a weakened Earthquake if it is running Earthquake. Earth Power is used by the Heatran, and yes, as I said, the Earthquake is now weakened. It could have actually very well have KO'd Heatran there, but due to the burn, it does not. Heatran opting to use Protect here, and we see the knockoff attempt by Hammer. Skarmory is going to opt to absorb that knockoff, but Hammy instead swaps into the Toxapex, who now infests the Skarmory. Skarmory gets out of the infestation by using Whirlwind, as we now see Gholdengo. Yeah, Gholdengo is going to go block the Defog from Hammy, but yeah, Muck gets paralyzed, which is not what you want. As we see a Curse go through. Yeah, Muck is not having fun with those para stuns, as we're going to see Skarmory go for the Whirlwind. 3 layers of spikes up, and it is going to be very difficult for Hammy to really get rid of, or to make progress against Luizin's team, as we're going to see Archelodon just get those buffs and constantly wear down the Toxapex. Clodsire are going to come in and get a free switch in from the Thunderbolt, as Scizor will now come in on the Clodsire, forced to recover. Amoonguss also revealing its heavy duty boots, but now losing them with Scizor's knockoff, as Gholdengo now heads in, trying to block a Spore, but Muck just comes in to respond. Here comes the rest, as we now see Galarian Slowking come in. Toxapex is going to be forced in by the Whirlwind, as Gholdengo will come in as a response to the Toxapex, who now swaps into the Iron Treads, and Muck will now swap again. Here comes the Stealth Rock, and Gholdengo immediately swaps into the Weezing. Hammy, knowing this, is just going to swap into Muck. So we're going to be seeing a lot of swapping here as Hammy burns a singular Sleep turn. Weezing is going to go in, and Luizin impatiently tries to go for a Body Press. Unfortunately, he goes nowhere, so Gholdengo is going to come in to, once again, deter the Defog, as Amoonguss is going to take a lot of damage, and Hammy, seeing where this is going, decides to save a lot of time and FFs. Now, for those of you who are unaware of how this matchup may go, essentially what is going to happen to Hammy is he's going to be forced into doing a lot of unideal switches. God forbid Luizin gets a really good prediction with Scizor and removes another one of his another one of Hammy's mods, his heavy duty boots, and it's just going to be constant suffering for Hammy the entire game, as there's just no really clear win condition that Hammy can have, because Hammy is supposed to be utilizing the poison typing and Toxic to wear down his opponent, but his opponent is completely immune to Toxic, and due to his inability to get any hazards up by himself, and also the inability to remove hazards because of Gholdengo's presence, yeah, Hammy is just not able to really play the game here. So it is just unfortunate, but Hammy is reasonably allowed to FF here, and it actually is not refairing, because it is definitely very, very unlikely for Hammy to win this game, and they probably did not want to stay there for over like 30-45 minutes just to lose anyway. But yeah, that'll be it for that match. So now let's see the final match in this BO3, which will be Hammy opting for the Poison team again, and this time Luizin is using Ghost. So this Ghost team is actually a bit bulkier than the other Ghost builds that we have seen before, but I do believe that just the presence of Spectre and Fluttermane alone should be enough to really make Hammy question a few of their plays. So Hammy is going to be very reliant on Alolan Muck doing the heavy lifting in this matchup, because Alolan Muck is very hard for Ghost to deal with. so let's see how Hammy and Luzin play this. So here comes Luzin, Goldingo coming in and forcing out the, well, not really forcing it out, but just like making Clodsire do a understandable play. Thunderwave is going to not do anything as Clodsire will get a spike up. Here comes Spectre. It looks like Spectre is going to look to do some severe damage. Now, is this the sub-Wisp set, is the question. It is. And now we're going to see, yeah, with that Wisp, that is actually going to seal Muck's fate this game, as now it is going to be immensely harder for Muck to make very good progress against the defensive Pokemon on Luzin's team. Because as you can see, Pekkarunt just took literally nothing from that knockoff, and now Parting Shot is being used. Muck is just completely crippled, but it is still going to remove those key items, and the Poison Touch will still go off on Muck as well, so that is going to be good for Hammy, as we're going to see the U-turn from Luzin's Dracobolt result in Spectre coming back in. Spectre this time going to opt to use Nasty Plot. A truly evil set this one is, but we're going to see another Will-O-Wisp go through. Psychic Noise going to disable any healing. So I believe this Spectre did have leftovers, so yeah. Hex, an incredible crit, almost completely deleting Amoonguss from full. As now the Grim Neigh is going to start stacking, and we're going to see some big problems happen as a result. As Clodsire is going to go for the Earthquake, but the bird is going to barely allow Spectre to live. Okay, but fortunately, this Clodsire is actually unaware, so Hammy does not have to worry about getting completely bowled over by the Spectre. And now a big problem has been averted, but now he is down his Amoonguss, which is unideal, as now Goldingo will come in to his Weezing and force it out. Alolan Muck forced to tank a Make It Rain, as it can't even recover anything with its HP, or with its Black Sludge, as it is burnt. The rest will go through again, as Toxapex is going to come in. Fluttermane opting for the Moonblast, which will lower the special attack of the Toxapex. Moonblast being used again, special attack once again lowered, thanks to Slowking. Remember, this is basically Special Scald, with the odds of lowering special attack, so make of that what you will. Sinistcha on Luzin's side is going to opt for a Calm Mind though, as Hemi will also opt for a Calm Mind on their Galarian Slowking. Hemi opting to swap out, as Sinistcha opts for more Calm Minds. Shadow Ball being used and doing a hefty amount of damage to the Toxapex after a +2 boost, as we see Goldingo hovering above those spikes with its balloon. Fluttermane now coming back in, Luzin seemingly having a hard time dealing with this Muck, or seemingly going to have a hard time dealing with the Muck, as we see a swap go into Galarian Weezing. It seems like Hammy may have been afraid of a strong Moonblast there, as Alolan Muck comes back out and Dracobolt will perish. Fluttermane is going to come back in, and what are we going to see from that? Yes, we're going to see another Shadow Ball get used, wearing down the Weezing. Muck is going to come back in, burning yet another Sleep Turn, as Pekkarunt will easily tank the knockoff. Luzin going to recover on the Pekkarunt, as Curse will be used. Curse is going to be a big issue for the team to deal with, but fortunately, the Parting Shot from Luzin's Pekkarunt will allow him to pivot. Muck is going to be paralyzed, but it'll be okay. Goldingo now getting its balloon popped. Are we going to see some very bad paras from Hammy? Ooh, that is a greedy Curse, as now one bad paralysis could make it very hard for Hammy to win this game. Never mind, Hammy is now fine. But he does opt to still swap out due to fear of the Moonblast. As now we see the Galarian Slowking tank the Shadow Ball, but Luzin is scared and swaps back into Pekkarunt, who now Parting Shots right back into Fluttermane. Oh, unluckily, the knockoff gets selected from Sleep Talk, and Fluttermane ends up dying as a result. That's going to be brutal. As we see Muck then proceed to roll nothing after that very impressive play. Knockoff is going to be used, and Sinistcha will be poisoned and lose its heavy duty boots. As we're going to see more subsequent Calm Minds, Knockoff is going to be used, and it looks really bleak for Luzin here, as it's going to be very hard for him to break through that Muck. Like I said, Muck is so hard for Ghost to deal with. But yeah, Galarian Slowking is going to come in now. The special... Ooh, a very brutal choice there by the by Hammy, as now it is disabling both the healing from Strength Sap. Okay, yeah, Strength Sap is going to bring Sinistcha back to full HP. This may actually... Could Luzin actually win this with enough Strength Sap of use? Because now Galarian Slowking is dead, so you can't even use Psychic Noise to stop it. But yeah. Oh, and Curse is actually going to keep this thing alive. So, oh, there's a... Yeah, wait, Sinistcha actually might be able to reverse sweep this. But Clodsire does still have the Unaware, so maybe it'll be fine. Oh! Never mind. It's still fine, and Recovery is going to allow Clodsire to get its HP back. We're going to see some Shadow Balls. It looks like we're going to be fishing for some Spadef drops on the Clodsire. Because remember, Unaware only works on the opponent's stats, so Emmy is going to take the time to finish the Spike Slayer, as we see a Recovery used again. Fortunately, Poison is not toxic, so it does not stack over time. But yeah, it looks like this is going to be a gross Stally match here. Sinistcha definitely in a better position now, as one good Shadow Ball Spadef drop could be all that we needed. Yeah, it looks like they are opting to try and stall each other out. Yeah, there goes the Shadow Ball, and there's the Spadef drop we were talking about. So now a Machagacha or Shadow Ball is going to do a good amount of damage to Clodsire, as that Machagacha will indeed do 26%. Forcing a recover from Clodsire. It looks like Hammy might actually be in a bad spot here, as with that Spadef drop, it's going to be harder for Clodsire to really afford to waste turns. And Sinistcha is too strong for Toxapex to deal with. Yeah, as you're going to see here, Toxapex just gets straight up KO'd by the Machagacha at 80% HP. And now Clodsire is going to come back in, getting rid of its Spadef drop, but it's probably going to come back eventually, as we are going to see a lot more uses of the Shadow Ball. Yeah, it seems very unlikely for Hammy to be able to win from this position, but they are going to keep trying, it looks like. But yeah, Strength Sap is used again, once again healing the Sinistcha, who is only suffering from regular poison damage. Machagacha is going to be used, fortunately will not do much. Yeah, we're going to see some more Machagacha get used, as Earthquake is still going to do very little damage to the Sinistcha. A miss from Luzin, maybe battering. So we're going to see another Strength Sap go through. Still a decent amount of HP gained from that. And for those of you wondering, again, why is the burn not letting Sinistcha get less? Why is he still getting a ton? That is purely because... Oh, that crit. Oh, and Hammy was not expecting that crit to appear. Oh no, he just has no more recovery uses. So, Clodsire is actually just dead here. And let me just see how many Strength Sap uses we have. We have 7 Strength Sap uses left on our Sinistcha. So we're gonna see... Yeah, that's a lot of damage on the Muck, who can only recover it through resting, which it will opt to do right now. So, yes, it looks like Luzin is going to opt for the Shadow Ball drops. Actually, wait, it's just straight up 2-hit, or 3-hit KOs the Muck, and Muck is going to be able to wake up in time. Yeah, and there it is. Illusion was able to win with the Singed Jaw. Our reverse sweep, because Sandy was in a very good position, but the Singed Jaw sneakily was able to win. Yeah, well played. Well played to lose in for sticking through it and looking at his win conditions. Correctly identifying that Singed Jaw could be a threat, and it indeed was. It's well played to him. And let's move on to the next match. As we see, Adjustments versus Dissonant Melody. Adjustments is opting for a really crackhead team right here. A psychic team with mons that I never thought I'd see together. We got Necrozma, we got regular Metagross, and we have Meloetta all on the same team. And mind you, this is screensless Psychic, which most people agree that Screen Psychic is the best version of Psychic to run, unless Necrozma is providing screens, but I'm not sure how likely that is. Regardless, Dissonant Melody's team is a MPL Steel team, it would appear, so not much to comment on that. Actually, nah, it is. Anyway, let's move on and see how this match goes. I'm very interested in seeing what adjustments this team does here. As we see instant Earth Power from Necrozma and a Mist Magma Storm from Dissonant Melody. Already an explosive start to this game. As the Corviknight is now going to be swapped in. As adjustments will have the Earth Power not hit the Corviknight. And there goes the Stealth Rock. Heat Wave coming out from the Necrozma. As Corviknight is going to keep bulking up in the face of Necrozma. Gonna see another Heat Wave go through. Ooh, that might have been a very dangerous misplay, as the Heat Wave is going to come through. Yeah, Corviknight is going to luckily still keep those roosts up, or keep its HP up with those roosts. So, going to see Dissonant Melody be spamming those roosts a couple of times, just make sure it doesn't perish to the Heat Wave. So now it is at full HP, and it can start trying to do damage to the Necrozma. Instead, Dissonant Melody opts for another bulk up. Ooh. Alright, thankfully, Dissonant Melody was able to get the, Oh, that actually not a terrible play from Adjustments. And Rocky Helmet on the Necrozma, what kind of set is this? As we see the Gholdengo use Shadow Ball on Meloetta, who is unaffected. And Heatran is going to be very much weakened by the previous transgressions. Magma Storm going to hit the Meloetta. Protect is going to go through on the Heatran again. Meloetta going to be chipped down slowly by the Magma Storm, which does quite a bit of damage, I would say. U-turn is going to be used to free Meloetta from the Storm's trapping, and Hoopa is now in for free. And when Hoopa's in for free, things tend to fall over, as you can see from the Heatran. Here comes Gholdengo, though. Gholdengo perfectly blocking that Focus Blast, but it will now trick a Choice Scarf onto the Hoopa, who now is going to be forced to use Choice Scarf. Hatterene is going to come in, but it will not like the Flash Cannon that this thing may or may not be holding. It doesn't matter anyway, because it looks like Adjustments is going to opt to nuzzle the Skarmory. This move has no right being even remotely decent, but Paralysis, as you can clearly see, is so strong that it's just worth wasting a entire move slot on. Like, look at this. This is ridiculous. Alright, the Magic Bounce is going to bounce back the Whirlwind and force this Melody to put in Earth Scizor. Scizor is going to take a decent amount from Psyshock, but not too much, as we're going to see a Rocky Helmet proc on the Necrozma. Hoopa is going to get straight up one-hit KO because that is a +2 Scizor, that is no joke. Skarmory is going to be forced in with the Metagross. Metagross is going to make Skarmory lose their Rocky Helmet. As we see Hatterene successfully force out the Skarmory with its own Whirlwind. Scizor is going to come back in, as we see a Calm Mind go through, and that should be a Scizor. Oh, never mind. Scizor will not get a KO there. as Psyshock is going to be used. I keep forgetting Heterin that's full defensive in these level in a Monotype. So yeah, just like that, Distant Melody gets defeated and Adjustments wins. This Psychic team is genuinely insane, by the way. I would love to have an explanation about what's going on here, but something tells me I will not like the reasoning for this Necrozma set. This Necrozma set is very devious. I think, no, there's no way this is our executable answer, is it? Yeah, this is going to be interesting to figure out, but yeah, let's move on to the next match. Adjustments going to opt for an electric team with Pincurchin. I've actually always wanted to see Terrain Electric work, so Adjustments is giving me a show right now. I'm very, very down to see how this ends up going through. But yeah, Distant Melody is going to be bringing a Dark team, which actually isn't quite standard. It's going to be using Galarian Moltres and Sableye. So there's a chance that it might be Screens, but I've been saying this forever, but I've yet to see Screen Sableye in any of these matches. Even though I swear it's not that bad. But yeah, we'll see what this Melody opts for here. As Greninja is going to come in. Pincurchin going to set that electric terrain, and Greninja going to be leading off with Toxic Spikes. Both sides are actually leading off with Toxic Spikes, interestingly enough. Well, Pincurchin does normally run Toxic Spikes since it's not really doing anything else anyway, but yeah, here comes the Supercell Slam, which will do quite a bit of damage to the Galarian Moltres, as the Fiery Wrath will get the KO on it. Now, unfortunately, this does mean that Adjustments only has 3 turns of Electric Terrain to use, but Regieleki will swap out and Rotom will come in. Remember, Rotom does not have Defog, so Hydro Pump is going to be used. Tinglu will be getting a Weakness Policy buff, and the Payback will do a ton of damage to the Rotom. But unfortunately, a crit on the Hydro Pump is going to force the Tinglu to perish and not get that second Payback off. That could be very bad, because this could be chip damage that Yaskarada could have not taken. Regieleki going to get the KO on Yaskarada as a result, and Greninja is going to come in. Zapdos going to come in as well, as the Hydro Pump will not do a ton of damage to the Zapdos. As here comes Sableye with the Heavy Duty Boots. Recover is going to be spammed, so it looks like this may be the standard Sableye set. Yeah, it is the standard one, as Will-O-Wisp is going to go through now. And Discharge is going to just completely annihilate the Sableye. Greninja is going to come in and get the KO on Zapdos. Oh! Or not. Zapdos will get KO'd though by the burn, but not quite the Ice Beam, as Regieleki is going to come in. And Greninja is going to very much take a good amount of damage from that Volt Switch. And Hisuian Samurott is definitely going to be forced to attack, so Ceaseless Edge will be used, as Rising Voltage is used by the Raging Bolt, and it will be enough to get the KO. And there you go! Electric getting a W against a Meta-type. Very fun show that was being shown by Adjustments here. But I appreciated every second of it. Thank you, Adjustments, for making this a very entertaining series. But yeah, very, very funny team to watch. Pincurchin plus Raging Bolt, Rising Voltage, that is definitely a scary combo. But yeah, sadly, we do not see a lot of Pincurchin, because people do believe that it is just too much of a momentum sink. But I think on this particular team, Adjustments was able to kind of make it work, and this matchup does allow it to work as well. So yeah, let's move on to the next match, which will be our final series. Bot Pro versus, I believe this is Leafeon Lull. This is a Leafeon Lull alt. So yeah, Bot Pro is a top 100 Monotype ladder player, and I do see them quite a bit in high ladder. I end up facing against them a lot. So I know both sides are definitely very good. And it looks like it will be ground versus fighting. Sandless ground, though, with the absence of Gliscor. How will Sandless ground fare in this match against fighting? With Urshifu Rapid Strike, I can't imagine it'll be great, but it depends on the Urshifu Rapid Strike set, because if it doesn't have Ice Spinner, this could be very rough. So let's see how this goes. As Iron Valiant leads into the Quagsire, Clodsire now being swapped in by Leafy and Lol, as Moonblast goes into the Clodsire and is easily able to tank it. Sneasler is going to come in now, as Clodsire is going to try and get a Toxic off, but Sneasler is obviously immune. Landorus Therian going to come in and do a small Intimidate on the Sneasler. As we see Gravity get used. Ooh, that is not what Bopper wanted to see, as Earthquake is now going to go through. Tinglu is now going to be put in on top of the Great Tusk, who puts on the Stealth Rock. Here comes Urshifu, getting ready to Barrage, but we see a swap out immediately into Gallade, and Leafy and Lol seemingly called the bluff and decided to stay in and use Earthquake, getting rid of Gallade. Gallade may not have even been that big of a deal this match, but if they had Leaf Blade, it may have been a big problem. As the close combat gets used by Urshifu, Leafy and Lol opting to headlong rush the Urshifu to death, as now Sneasler is going to come in with its balloon once again. The Great Tusk is going to be forced out because it was obviously Choice Scarf, and Landorus is once again going to intimidate the Sneasler. Sneasler looking for any sort of hacks for the Dire Claw, but unfortunately that might be the worst one, as now Landorus is going to be able to use its Earthquake freely. Iron Treads is going to come in on the Rapid Spin from Great Tusk. Leftover is going to be revealed, as it is easily able to tank the Earthquake. Iron Head is used, we get a flinch, no flinch, and Iron Treads will be perishing. But now, Leafy and Lol's own Great Tusk is going to come in. Once again, Sneasler is probably going to force this thing out, as it still has its balloon intact. But Landorus Therian is very willing to take a hit or two from the Sneasler, especially since Sneasler can't really do that much back. Close combat going to weaken the Sneasler and on the defensives, as Dire Claw is going to finish off the Landorus Therian. But now Great Tusk is just free to use its Headlong Rush and just kind of brutalize the Bot Pro's team. Iron Hands stands no chance against it, and Iron Valiant will force out the situation, as Clodsire is going to have to take the Ice Punch. Here comes Sneasler. Now Clodsire kind of does just wall Sneasler straight up, but we're going to see... Yeah, there's the Dire Claw, and Quagsire will fall asleep, but I don't think Quagsire is really going to care too much about what Sneasler has to say, as it is easily tanking those hits, and Clodsire is going to swap it back into the Iron Valiant, and this Endless Vortex should probably result in an FF from Bopra, but they will just keep trying. Spikes are going to start getting put down by Leafy and Lol now, as the Ice Punch goes through. Toxic is finally used, and now Iron Valiant is on that timer. Tick, tick, tick. As Quagsire once again tanks an Ice Punch, and that chip is just starting to rack up on Iron Valiant, as now Iron Valiant is trying to make any plays it can, slowly but surely losing that HP, as now Great Tusk can come in, and Ice Spinner can be afforded to be used because now it is at that HP where it is fine. Quagsire is going to swap into the Sneasler, and now these Sword Stance boosts mean absolutely nothing. The close combat doing a shocking amount of damage though. As Dire Claw gets used again, maybe not the most ideal play by Bot Pro, but close combat is going to be used again, and again. And again. Or no, this time he used the Dire Claw, he just literally killed himself. And that'd be that. But yeah, that is the power of Sandless Ground without Gliscor, so I guess Sandless Ground might actually just be fine. because this was I wouldn't say this was a hard matchup due to the fact that there's no Berloom, but I definitely do think this wasn't an easy matchup for Sandless Ground to win, and he was able to win it pretty easily, seemingly. So, yeah, not bad from Leafy and Lol, but let's see the next match and our final match for this video, which will be Steel versus Dragon. How boring. But it's fun, because the Steel team actually has a Empoleon, so I'm very interested to see what that does. And we have a Walking Wake Dragon team as well, so it's always nice to see that, even if it is falling off. So let's see what Bopro does to make Walking Wake work in this scenario. So Walking Wake immediately leads in, Goodra comes in as a response to the Archaludon, as Empoleon is a response to the Goodra, and switches into Skarmory. Skarmory losing its Rocky Helmet immediately, as spikes are going to go down, and say it with me. Hazards are Dragon's biggest weakness, despite how strong it is. So those spikes, that spike damage is going to accumulate really quickly against that Dragon team, as we see the flip turn from Empoleon go through on the Archaludon, and Gholdengo comes in. We see the confirmation that Archaludon is the standard set with the leftovers, as Stealth Rock is used. Shadow Ball is used again by the Gholdengo, and the Spadef drop is brought, while an Archaludon is going to be brought in. Stamina boost, and leftovers reveals that it is also probably likely the standard set. Stealth Rock is going to be used by Leafy and Lol's Archaludon, as now we have Stealth Rock and Spikes on the field. Excuse me. And Empoleon is able to easily tank the Dracometeor from Walking Wake. Empoleon now going to roost and get a bunch of its HP back. Archaludon not very happy to be seeing a full HP Empoleon in front of it, so Bopro will swap into Dragonite. But Leafy and Lol is going to swap into Gholdengo and then into Skarmory, who is going to very easily take these outrages from Dragonite. Dragonite already getting confused, and now losing its multi-scale with the body press from Skarmory. An unfortunate confusion hit, as Archaludon is now going to be forced in. More spikes, more pain for Bopro to deal with. As look at that Walking Wake just getting slowly chipped down more and more by the presence of those hazards. Empoleon gonna once again swap in. Walking Wake literally cannot do anything about this Mon, so it's kind of just a free switch for Empoleon every time. And yeah, Bopro, seeing the writing on the wall, decided to FF. And that would lead to Leafy and Lol winning and moving on to the next round. So yeah, very interesting games we saw today. And I will say, the metagame looks very interesting. We're still seeing a lot of the same types, but we do see quite a bit of Poison popping up. Now, Poison's performance isn't really consistent yet, but I'm waiting to see if maybe we'll see some innovations and see whether or not Poison will actually be able to perform in the coming seasonals rounds. And maybe there's like some small optimizations that need to be made. We'll see, but yeah. Definitely like what I'm seeing from the metagame so far. Adjustments definitely showing that lower tier types can still work even with crazy builds. But yeah, definitely very impressed with the seasonals so far. And now I will talk about my channel update. So I know this is a unusual video, and I was told to do this video, or asked to do something like this for Monotype seasonals, because typically seasonals aren't really covered by anyone, really, even including me. So I thought it'd be interesting to really showcase some of these types and some of the crazier teams that are brought, because seasonals are a good place to test out wild teams in a somewhat low pressure environment, because obviously it's still a very important tournament to win, but people are more willing to bring crazier stuff in a BO3 where your team isn't depending on you to win, and it's just more about your own personal performance. Because if you bring a crazy team and it ends up not working, you can just bring 2 real teams and then win the BO3. So that's usually the way I see it, and I think a couple of other players see it that way as well. As you can see from adjustments, just bringing insane teams. But yeah. But yeah, this is definitely interesting experiment that I'm gonna try and see what the best way for me to cover these are in the future. Because I kind of just grabbed the first replays I saw on these games, but I want to see if maybe I can like hand pick a few more, or maybe even make the video a little bit shorter. Because obviously it doesn't need to be as long as the MPL videos, even though this one ended up being probably longer than those generally are, so yeah. But aside from this, MCL, Monotype Champions League, is starting soon. And unfortunately, I did not realize it was starting, and completely forgot to make a commencement post for it. So, yeah. MCL is still one of the big Monotype team tournament, so we're going to see a lot of metagame development, and this is going to be the first team tournament with Gliscor banned. So this is going to show whether or not the metagame is truly going to be more exciting, more different, more varied, or anything, really. So, yeah. I'm excited to see what happens in MCL. Week 1 is already out as of this video, but obviously I need the week to end before I can actually cover it, so I'll make a video about it next week. But that begs the question, how am I going to cover this? How am I going to cover MCL and seasonals at the same time? And that's because I will be doing 2 videos a week now. So, because some of my IRL stuff has been settling a bit better, we can now afford to do 2 uploads a week. And as some of you have probably noticed from my last 2 videos, I have outros now. So yeah, we'll just have like I'm still waiting for there to be a picture made for the outro, so it isn't just a random quote. But yeah, that is what is happening with the channel right now. So on Tuesday, or maybe not Tuesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, we will see videos of the seasonals, and then on Saturday you'll see videos of the MCL and the team tournaments, and that will be the cycle until MCL ends or seasonals ends, whichever comes first. And then we'll probably either go back to 1 upload a week, or I could start doing like more varied content and probably get back into experimenting a lot more on mods, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about still. So yeah, with that being said and done, I hope you all have a great day, and remember to take care of yourselves.